Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis, and I'm back in front of my grow tents. As you can see, the light is right next to me here. And if you recall, in the last video that I had about my grow tents, I had sort of set them up. I had set up one, and that's over there above the camera here. And then the other one was incomplete because for whatever reason, I didn't get the shelves in the mail. So what I did to get the plants in there is to just use some benches that I typically use outside and bring them in, and then add both lights so that everything's super bright. And you can see there, so they're all on a single bench on a single plane, and you see the two lights. You might also see a whole bunch of blooms, including a first bloom labiata right there, and a nodosa, and a bunch of catasetums. But what I'm going to do today is actually install the shelf that I want to install and have a two-tiered system in here. And what I think is actually going to happen is I'm going to have a bunch of space left over. And so I might be able to jam more plants in there, which of course, as an orchid grower, talking to other orchid growers, we all know that there's never enough space. So having more space is great. But let me sort of show you the type of system that I'm setting up, set it up, install it, not bore you to death with the sort of gory details, and then show you the aftermath, or what it looks like after it's all set up. So maybe you can think about a similar setup in your situation. Additionally, I'll do a bit of a video about the plants that are blooming, including this little thing on its first bloom. But for now, let's get these new shelves set up. So you can see all the plants are on one level there. But what I want is to have them all on multi-levels. And so this particular grow tent is 36 wide. It's 72 tall, so this shelf, being 54 inches tall, will easily fit under there. And then having these shelves be 14 inches deep means that it's probably going to take the same footprint as one of those green tables that are there holding up the plants. So I'll have two levels. Essentially, I'm assuming I can get all of these plants into two levels here, with one level on the bottom having its own light, and then another level having a light coming down from the top, so illuminating both levels. And then I'll hang these particular catasetums where they can get lots of light. So that's the plan. Okay, so I've assembled this rack. These are super easy to put together, so I didn't think that you would be interested in watching me put this together, but I will talk about how I sort of invented these dimensions. First, I got down to this level and estimated the height of most of the plants so that they could fit into this lower level. So what I wanted to do is have a lot of space up top so that I could I could have sort of tall growing plants. So you see that really tall leaf in the back, that's Cattleya purpurata. That one will be tall and might even start to put out a bloom spike by the time I get these plants back out for spring, summer. I also have another plant, the Neobenthemia gracilis, also called Polystachya neobenthemia. In fact, Polystachya is the currently accepted genus. It's really tall, so I needed like a lot of space between the top and in this level. So I'll have one light underneath hanging from here, probably pretty close to the top, and then one light hanging from that green bar on the ceiling. And so that should give me lots of plant space. Additionally, I've added this plastic. This is just something that you put in a kitchen. And then I've zip tied the corners down. And so basically what I'll have is the light hanging under here, under there. And then when I water the plants, they'll stay dry. The light will stay dry as the water rolls off. I've also tilted it slightly. So there's little nubs under here where I can adjust the height of the rack. So I've made this tilt slightly forward so that any water coming down here slowly rolls off the front. And then you can see it's all caught. There's sort of a tray, a tray that catches the water underneath. And you can see there's still a little bit of water in there from the last time I watered. So basically I'll hit these guys with a hose, not nearly as strongly as when they're outside, but I will hit them with the hose to water them. And then the water will collect down here and then slowly evaporate, and bringing humidity into the rest of the tent. So the next thing that I need to do, of course, is pull all the orchids out, get the lights set up to their preferred height, and then put them back in. So that's what I'll do next. All right, so I've gotten this done and moved in. And so you can see that this whole tent is 72 inches deep, tall, I should say. And the top of this rack is 54 inches. So there's plenty of room. I only need one level here to put my tall plants. And what I'm going to do is actually position this giant bush thing here on the side and see how that works with this light. And then if I need to raise that light a little bit, I can do so. Underneath, I've got these short plants with that light down there. So if I look behind me, I'm going to get these short ones here. And I'm going to see if I can jam some of those taller ones over there on the lower level. But I want to be cognizant of which ones are going to bloom in spring. So if I have a tall one like these two, that's a Cattleya schroederi, and that's a primary hybrid that blooms in fall. So I know that those are not going to bloom early in the spring. So I don't mind having them on that lower level. But if I know something is going to bloom in the spring and send up flowers while they're still in here, let's say my amethystic glosses, for example, I'd like to have them with enough space so that they can bloom nicely. So, know your plants, know what you're doing. And then I'm going to actually, it looks like I'm going to have enough room in here to get another one of these racks back in there. So what I can do here is keep my deciduous plants, my catasetums, up front and away from water, but still getting plenty of light. So let's populate this tent and see how it all looks. All right, so I've got all of these Cattleyas moved into here, and I actually have quite a bit of space left over. So this is a really unexpected, pleasant surprise. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a couple of the Cattleya nobiliores. In fact, the ones that are actively growing, the imports, this one over here, and some of these smaller ones down here. I think I'm going to pull them down into this area so that I can keep kind of a closer eye on them. And then as I promised, I was going to show you some blooms. So here's the Neobenthamia polystachya. This is kind of an off-season bloom. But this is a super fragrant species. Let's see if I can get this to zoom in and focus a little bit better. There we go. And you can really see there's a lot of spots. And it's this sort of little ball of flowers that are intensely fragrant. Beautiful white flowers with purple spots and a little bit of yellow. Really cool species. The next one down here, of course, is Brassavola nodosa, which I showed you not too long ago. And it's still cranking out blooms. And then there's this Cattleya labiata. This is the first bloom seedling. Sorry, let me zoom out here. You can see it in the light there. It's pretty nice. I've got high hopes for this one on the next bloom. Of course, as we know, many of the first blooms tend to be kind of weird looking. But this one, it's very cupped, lip didn't open fully, but it's got a nice color. So hopefully next time on a larger plant that can support this, it's already putting out a new growth here, we'll get a better bloom. Oops. And so when you play Orchid Jenga, things like that can happen. So I'll have to rearrange some things, and then I will show you the final product. Okay, so this looks pretty good. I have a ton of extra space here. So who knows, maybe I have this light pole here. Maybe I can hang another light from there. I think we'll see how this goes this winter. And I did switch a few plants out. I brought those nobiliores that I imported from Brazil over here, so I can really keep an eye on them. And then I've got some deciduous plants here, some of the catasetums sort of away from the light, but it's still bright enough that they'll get seasonal cues. And then of course I have my taller plants here. And to be honest, once these catasetums finish blooming, I'll probably put them down here to get them out of the way. We'll see how this one does. This is Ivany by Venasium. I think some of these are not super happy because of the lighting change. I went from sunlight to kind of hanging out under these lights. Well, adjacent to these lights, but not under them, kind of how you see now. This one is Catasetum nomos. This one is Fong Sing, blooming yet again. And this is a denticulatum that just keeps blooming over and over again. Oh, got a little spider on there. Really nice little orange lip. And I have this one down here, which has aborted most of its blooms, but it still has two left. And this was the larger, slightly more dark red one. And this is on its third spike of the season, even though it's only been blooming this is its first season blooming. So really cool. As you can see, everything's wet. I hit it with the hose a little while ago for the Cattleyas and all the plants that are growing. And of course I did play a little bit of Orchid Jenga on this side as well, but everything seems to be fitting pretty nicely. I've even got some room down there for another tall one. But anyway, oh, look at this. I've got a cloacia with a spike forming right there, which means I should have this blooming by New Year's. So what I'm going to do is turn these lights off since it's past sunset here, and I turn the lights on so that I could see, zip them all up, and that's it. The plants are all inside and ready for winter. Hope you all have a great weekend. Bye.